all, and welcome back to another thrilling episode of Off the Dome. I'm your humble and Mary Jordan Brown. With me, as always, is our dynamic director. Say hi, dynamic director.
Hello.
Hey, Tamar. It's so good to see you. Thank you so much. We are halfway through season 2 of Very Important People.
Oh my gosh, it's halfway already?
Yeah, I counted. I have all the names written down. I know, which I assume means you aren't done editing yet, which is
No, I'm not done editing yet. It's wild. I was like telling my partner the other day, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna go into edit this week. And he was like, how are you still editing this? I feel like you've been working on this for a year. And I'm like, yeah, there's a lot of episodes this season.
Yeah, 16 episodes this season. You guys filmed in like June or July, somewhere around there, right?
Somewhere around there. I do not know what time is anymore. Like, yeah. Somewhere July maybe.
Yeah, and well, I mean, to be fair, January was 2 years long.
Yeah, exactly.
So like it's a lot happening. Most of it bad, but a thing that is good. Very important people. Look at that smooth transition.
I love that segue.
Yeah, look. I've heard it said before, and I don't remember who I'm stealing it from, but joy is an act of resistance, and oh man, does it feel good to laugh at times like this.
Yeah, not to get political, but I guess to get political. It was really kind of like very coincidental timing that Jacob's episode came out like pretty much immediately after Trump was announced.
Yes, and, the saddest billionaire. I guess vocally saddest. They're all the saddest. That's all their internal monologues, but Jacob vocalized it. Yeah, I mean, it has been such a killer season. But I have to know, where did the soup come from?
Oh my gosh, that was awesome. So yeah, so I think, as you know, like when we're kind of in pre-production and we're coming up with looks for people, we have our own idea on where people are going to take it, or kind of our own names for it, just to keep track of everything. In a million years, did we ever think that John and Kate would become soup salesmen? So we we did kind of, oh no, do you know what it was? It was for Jacob's episode. We were thinking evangelical pastor, but then for John and Kate's episode, the inspo was, I'm just like a really big fan of, like I'm a older millennial that is really into like Lily Tomlin movies and 9 to 5 and, and Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead and stuff like that. So I was like thinking it would be amazing, since we have these zombie costumes, zombie prosthetics, to put them in outfits that were kind of like 80s office workers, kind of like 9 to 5 type of thing. So them taking it, I was really happy they took it the evangelical route, since Jacob didn't, and I'm glad he didn't, because his episode was so fun. And then while we were brainstorming, as you know, we have like 5 minutes in front of the mirror where we're kind of workshopping, like, who's your character? And so I forgot who said it. Someone said door-to-door salesman, and then, either John and Kate were like, we sell soup. And immediately I asked our producer if we could have a PA run out, and there's a Gelson's very close. I said, is there a way that a PA could like very, very quickly run out and grab some soup? And then we also have to Greek it, put the labels over it so you don't see the brand. And we have to do that pretty quickly because we only have like 10 minutes until we start the episode. So they did it. And we had our production designer, Ryan, and then I think he had a couple people helping him put labels and just kind of Greek out the soup. And right when everything was kind of like Greeked out, I think that's when I let them know, like, oh, the soup's here. So anytime we want to kind of bring out the briefcase with the soup, feel free.
Anytime we want to bring out the briefcase with the soup. Oh, man, such a sentence. Yeah, it was so good. It's also so fun when you watch an episode like that where you're like, this is the last episode they filmed.
Yeah. Well, I think I mentioned
they're either destroying Vic's outfit or the set.
exactly.
Something.
Yeah. And I think I mentioned last season, Tommy Shrigley, he was the last one. And so I told, Zach, you can just go kind of wild. And I said the same thing to John and Kate. I didn't know they would, any of them, including Vic, would take it as far as they did, but I was really happy that they did. And, red tomato soup just seemed like a really good option to destroy this set with.
Yeah.
I don't think my producers would, be as stoked as I am to talk about it. But yeah.
It was the last shoot. You got to tear down the sets anyway. It's fine. And it made for great television. A bunch of. I mean, look, I'm probably going to jump all over the place here because we have so much to catch up on.
There's so many episodes.
But speaking of like destroying things, generally, the slime. At what point were you like, Vic is going to cover themselves in this slime?
Well, as you know, Vic is always down to lean into whatever situation we
commitment to the bit. There has never been one stronger.
It's really amazing. Like, that's one of the millions of reasons I love them so much. But yeah, that's not even a fraction of the amount of slime that we had on standby. We had so much slime. We got it from the same manufacturers that make Nickelodeon slime. And our production designer, he had gotten it at one point for another, I don't know, maybe he got it for another shoot at one point, but he knew about, he's like, he knew where he could get some slime. And so he got a ton of it. And then I think at that point we were like, okay, what do we do with all of this slime? And so, I don't remember whose idea it was, but we were like, do you feel comfortable with that? And then of course we have to clear it with the costume designer because a lot of this stuff we own, but also a lot of this stuff we rent, and a lot of this stuff we cannot get ruined. So basically before anything like that happens, like I just have to clear it with all of our department heads to make sure it's kosher.
Yeah. Well, it feels like Nickelodeon slime should be washable because otherwise, they dump it on a lot of people.
I don't know.
I just. Paul F. Tompkins, like I still think, as of we're recording this, Anna is still my favorite episode of the season.
There was
Paul F. Tompkins is close though. I love so much about it. I love your choice to take such an incredibly recognizable person and a pretty big name for the show. I mean, like, we're gonna make it so that he is head to toe in prosthetics.
Yeah, that really came about because, we knew we wanted him. He was one of the first people that when we were talking about casting, we were like, PFT. And he's such a friend of Dropouts and performs with, Vic all the time. And so Vic kind of knew that, that he would be game to be in full prosthetics. And so, and he has such a good sense of humor, and he's just kind of, down. And so the very first, I think immediately when we found out that the season 2 was greenlit, Alex and I keep a notes app on my phone with ideas for future seasons, and Alex keeps a notes app the same. And so immediately we, texted each other and we're like, oh my God, let's, compare notes. Let's start talking about this. And the very first, I was like, okay, I don't remember, someone said, you go first. No, you go first. Oh, I think I said, Alex, you go first. And Alex said, well, I was thinking a worm could be fun. And I was like, shut up. And I like FaceTimed her and I was like, look, like I have a worm as number 1. I think that would be so cool. And then, I was thinking the worm kind of like akin to Heidi Klum's Halloween costume for a few years ago. And Alex was thinking a worm more like Earthworm Jim, if you know that character. And then through brainstorming with David, Paul, and Vic, we were kind of thinking like, well, what if we make up kind of a creature that's more like a slug? And then from there, the slug turned into, I think David was like, what about like something that's kind of like made up and a little bit more fun, like kind of the worm from Labyrinth or whatever creature that is from Labyrinth. And so that was really, kind of the starting off point for that.
Yeah,
But that one was fully like a full team effort to come up with that one.
I mean, obviously, like I think in the last looks, you said it's the second most complicated of the season, which
that is, I think, I don't remember if that was Alex or Bruce saying that. Because I truly don't know. Like, I rely on Alex to, let me know. But I do know it was complicated because we got a foam builder for this one to create the costume. And as you could see in the last looks, like they really they custom made that piece.
Yeah, and they had to make a guard for his mustache.
Yeah. And I believe the base, I don't remember if this is mentioned in the last looks. And there's a chance I might be DMing you later to tell you that it was fake news, but I'm pretty sure that that the base is the same prosthetic as Iffy's Denzel head.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
One of the things, obviously, like Last Looks has increased in production as well. You're not recording them 3 months after the fact, desperately trying to remember what happened the day of. Like, you had like a sit down with like cameras set up. Obviously,
we ended up. I did want to shoot immediately after we shot the episodes. This ended up being a couple months after, actually, just logistically, because we were supposed to only have 15 episodes, and then we added a 16th kind of last minute, which made kind of like no room for Last Looks. So, I think like hopefully next season we'll be able to do it a lot closer because my memory is just mush. But luckily we had our incredible producer of Last Looks, Audrey. She took like extensive notes. And I think I've talked in Last Looks before about our like amazing script supervisor, Johnny, who just took like such great notes. So we were able to kind of like, do like a little refresher as well.
Yeah. That's, but I love seeing, I mean, obviously, I'm a fan of behind the scenes stuff. This channel exists. It's really cool. Obviously, there was a huge. I still see like people still online are like, the only thing I don't like about Last Looks, not long enough. People want so much behind the scenes for what you're the show that you're building, because it is so incredible.
Well, and as like thus far we've really only focused on the makeup of it all, because that's like the prosthetics, like it's so, I mean, I am really interested to talk to Alex after the fact and say like, how did you guys do this? This is so amazing. But we don't really dive, like I try to kind of, throw in some facts about like production design and costume and, all of the other elements, but it really takes a village. And like, I feel like I could talk as much as I'm talking to Alex. I feel like I could talk like an equal amount to any of the other department heads and, be like, please explain your process. Cause it really is amazing what everyone's doing on set.
Yeah. I mean, in the slime, in our slime episode, like you had to cover the floor, in plastic, so that you could slime Paul F. Tompkins and put him on stage. I just like, so much of what I love about the show that has increased from season 1 to season 2 is the madness of host Vic. Of like, first of all, I love the storyline of they have been trapped in this show because they won an award and therefore they cannot leave. But like that whole like they're taping down the plastic to make sure the slime doesn't get through. The various new introductions of wherever they are on set has all been like so brilliant. do you want to talk a bit about like those ideas of like moving? I know you've talked about like you have your show Bible of, you know, like what Host Vic is about, and moving from season 1 to season 2 and that sort of narrative that you're pulling through.
Yeah. So I think you had directed me to this incredible Reddit post last season where
Yes.
someone like basically wrote out all of the lore from the first season, which I mean, honestly, we kind of used that as like a starting off point. And then I had, you know, our doc that Vic and I had made from season 1, and we kind of compared that with the lore doc that you had directed us to. And then, you know, as I said, like we oh no, that was oh yeah. So we're kind of like keep like building it, and like that's one of the reasons we have such a great script supervisor. But Vic and I, we talk extensively. Like we talk extensively about like where was your character in season 1? Where will they be in season 2? What happened to them like between season 1 and season 2? That kind of like is you know, like giving yourself some kind of like, you know, like action and like, you know, how did you change? How did you change from season 1 to season 2? And so one of the things we talked about, a big kind of through line in season 1 was Bianca, obviously. And so this season we wanted to introduce a face to Bianca. And so luckily Talia was
So good.
interested.
Such
And
a good choice.
she's amazing. We did all of Talia's pickups on one day in like an hour, and then like Eve and I just kind of throw them wherever we see fit. Um, so that was one thing, was bringing in Bianca. Oh, another thing was Bianca got a raise, so now she is a producer on the show, which means that she has more control, which host Vic obviously doesn't like. So that was another thing that we kind of wanted to play with. And then another thing was like, you know, Vic's marriage is in shambles this season. And so kind of showing what that looks like. And like, you know, because of this Webby, which is, kind of like making fun of the Webby. I mean, we're so thankful that we got it, but like, you know, really like leaning into like, oh my God, like we got this Webby. And so basically like host Vic's head getting so big because of the Webby and what that looks like. You know, how did that affect their marriage, and how does that affect like their relationship with their crew, and how does that affect their relationship with Bianca and like with me and, you know, everyone else behind the scenes was kind of
Yeah.
like, yeah.
Yeah, I made a video where I encouraging people to vote because the queer teas are now open and VIP is up for
Yeah.
that, and I was strongly encouraging people to vote because there are 3 dropout shows in the
Mhm.
VIP category, and it's like, but here's the thing. Monet's Slumber Party and Dungeons and Drag Queens aren't going to incorporate the award into the next
Right.
theoretical season of the show.
If
Like,
you
if there
want
is
to
a
see that
VIP
award
season,
on stage, yeah,
yeah, you
I
would
mean,
have it on. It will
yeah,
be another hook for Host Vic that they cannot leave again because they just
right.
keep winning awards for the show.
I mean, that's kind of one of like the really fun things about this show is, you know, Vic is playing a character, and so, you know, it's fun for me really to brainstorm with Vic on like how, you know, like really just kind of character development, which is something that I wouldn't be able to do with them if they weren't playing a character, obviously. Like,
Yeah,
so it's really, really, really fun to kind of think of it, even though it obviously is a completely improvised show, it's really fun to kind of like edit and do pre-production as though it was a little bit more narrative, and you know, thinking of backstory and stuff like that, which, you know, a normal kind of show without any, you know, like if Vic was playing Vic, like we wouldn't be having these discussions on backstory or anything like that.
yeah, yeah. And one of the other things that I love about Host Vic is how sad they are, just as
I
like a
know.
general human being. The Chris Red episode, I think, highlighted it so perfectly. They were so excited, just like kicking their feet to have a friend, and him dying at the end. Just absolute perfect comedic choice. How much of like of the outside dropout folks that you brought in, were they all fans of season one? I mean, how much did they know coming in, or how much did you have to tell them, like, here's the deal with host Vic? They're so sad.
I mean, it kind of depended on the person, to be honest. Like, we really tried to get people for the show that were excited to be on it, because, you know, you really do have to commit to be on a show like this. Like, you kind of have to be excited to be on a show like this to really be able to do it. It's not just kind of reading lines. So a lot of people were very excited. Chris, I think, actually, I want to say he was the most excited about, like, I met everyone in their trailers and kind of gave them a rundown before we started filming anyway. And with Chris, when I walked in, I had never met him before, and he was telling me that he was a massive fan of the show and that he had seen it. And you know, he was so excited to be there. And I think that really, it makes the whole thing more fun. And I also think that it makes like the show better when people are excited to be on it. I think that, like, you know, I kind of have to go in assuming that not everyone knows all of the lore behind, you know, and I also I don't think that it's necessary to give them all of the lore either. Like, I think that, like, I can give them some little tidbits, but really it's kind of up to Vic to kind of, like, you know, volley that stuff for them. And then, you know, if someone's not kind of getting it, then I can always call cut and, like, you know, just kind of tell them like what we're even talking about here, because it's kind of easy to like lose track of it too. But luckily most of the guests were very like excited, and, you know, Chris had definitely seen the show before.
Yeah. I mean, that makes so much sense because he played it so perfectly. I mean, he played it like a dropout regular would play it, in terms of like, watched every episode, knew what the show was about, like came in and was like, I've got a beat I want to hit, which is I'm gonna be Vic's new only friend, I think is a fair assessment.
Probably only friend. Yeah. And I think, you know, as I've said in the past, like, as we're kind of filming, that's when we're really finding the story, and like we're kind of crafting the ending as we're watching the improv unfold. And so that is stuff that kind of like, you know, happens kind of like organically, you know, a lot of the time. Like, I don't really know how much, you know, I can't really speak for Chris or any of the guests, but like, if I were to guess, I'm assuming that they're not thinking too much about like Vic's backstory while they're performing.
I'm assuming most of that is coming. Vic is giving them the like the very not subtle cues of like leaning in so hard to the like whatever thing is being thrown, because as we said, Vic is gonna commit to whatever bit you throw at them. Speaking of shooting though, was it still like 3 a days for you all? Like, so this was like about like a week and a half.
This shoot was longer because we did have some days off. And then some of the days, I think 2 of the days we shot for 5 days total, I think. Let's see. This is going to be a really boring math equation. But yeah, without like thinking about math for the next 30 minutes, it really, I think it was like, it ended up being 5 or 6 days of filming, and it was either 2 or 3 episodes a day. And then a lot of the times, like, you know, as I mentioned, Talia coming in, we would have pickups as well. So, you know, like, there's basically, you know, if an episode happens and, you know, I'm talking to Johnny, the script supervisor, afterward, and, you know, with David and Paul, and we're like, oh, you know, we kind of are missing this. And so then, like, the next day we'll do a pickup to insert it into the edit.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, one of the things that I love about the show is the like the little beautiful touches, like Paul F. Tompkins saying, I'm surprised they kept the edit where I sneezed in, and then you have to go shoot that pickup, and
Yeah,
I'm assuming, I mean, well, I guess Johnny, and then you have to be like, don't forget, you have to sneeze while you're doing this.
yeah. So that's really fun. So like after we shoot the interview, obviously, as you know, we do the green screen stuff, and so that's when Johnny will say like, okay, this is the stuff that happened. And so this is kind of like the stuff that we need to hit. This season, we decided, like last season, we really spread ourselves thin by trying to shoot every single green screen mention. This time around, we were a little bit more prudence about it, just thinking like what really is going to play in the edit and what's not. And I think that just came from like, me sitting with Eve last season and kind of knowing like how an edit is going to form. So yeah, Johnny would kind of say like, okay, here are the facts, and so then I would go in and say like, okay, let's do let's do this PSA, but don't forget to sneeze in it.
Yeah.
And yeah. And also this season, I think last season we did as well, but it's super, super helpful that our VFX artist is on set with us to kind of say like, what will work as far as camera angles and stuff like that. And it's not like we're kind of deciding then like what the background is or kind of like the exact thing that it's going to look like, but I can kind of be like, oh, this is going to be security camera footage, so it needs to be high angle, or this is going to be vertical because it's going to be a social media clip or whatever. So then our VFX guy can say like shoot from this angle or light this way or whatever it is.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right, I've put off talking about Anna for as long as I can.
Oh my gosh, Anna.
As the director, when the rock fell perfectly between her legs like she pooped it, did you rip off someone's arm as you were sitting at Video Village of just like, can you believe this just happened with like the perfect shot and thing happened? How did this happen that we didn't cause it to happen?
I mean, I will say that we caused it to happen. No, we didn't. I'm just joking. We definitely didn't cause it to happen. Yeah, Anna is such a brilliant improviser. Like, we were not expecting to have Anna be the premiere, and we're like, obviously this is the premiere. Like, what are we going to do? It's the premiere. She's so fucking good. So yeah, I mean, when the rock fell down, I was not happy about it. I was like, oh my God, we're going to have to we don't have that long to shoot every episode. And so I was like, oh, are we going to have to cut and go in and fix the costume and stuff like that? But, because Anna and Vic are so fucking amazing and brilliant and, they just roll with it. Like they just lean into it and, they she made it seem like she pooped out a rock, and that not only is it hilarious, but it also saves it really saves me from having to call cuts. So I obviously the more skillful an improviser is or an actor is, I don't want to say improviser anymore because we actually had a lot of people on the show that don't come from an improv background this season. But yeah, people really are talented. We have very talented people on set, and they really, really help. Any little accidents just turn into happy accidents.
Yeah, it's that moment was magical. We also, I mean, it's always, I obviously I understand Vic laughs during probably most episodes, but the moments where Vic is so broken that you have to cut to the horrifying bendy Vicks on a host desk or whatever nightmarish concoction, so good. And yet with a rope breaking Vic so completely, it's another one of those moments you're just like, I know you've talked about with me, you don't want every episode to be here's Vic laughing really hard at something, using those sparingly, but it's so good. It's so good.
Yeah, it's, I think like I am a big fan of breaks, and I think that like it also really depends on the tone of that episode. Like I don't think that a break would really make sense for like a really intense episode, and like Vic and the actor are like the goal is for them to have fun, and they're having fun, and like Vic and the guests, like they're inevitably going to break, as is the crew. Like we're all breaking because everyone, they're so funny. But for me, like in the edit, like I really do like using it sparingly, and I think like Eve feels the same way. But we do really enjoy it as well, so we kind of just pick and choose like what are the ones that kind of make the most sense. And then it's also like fun, like there are certain episodes where Vic is breaking more than others. Like I remember the from last season, like Vic was just breaking like crazy during the Allie episode, the pig. And so I'm like, it's such a lovable episode. Like, how do we not, really lean into those breaks?
Yeah, I don't know if anyone has like timed it out whether or not Anna or Allie was faster to just like wreck Vic. But yes, like
I'm
stepped on my
curious.
mom with a rope, like moments that just
Yeah.
like it's so good.
I mean, Anna's choices, I I truly feel like I'm watching just like some sort of genius in front of me, because like the fact that she I think I said this in the last looks, like in a million years I would never think that her decision would be to be a little boy that made a wish to be just become rocks. And there's certain characters or certain actors that come on where it is a little bit more of kind of like, should I do this? And then, like sometimes I'm like, well, like we kind of already did that. Or, David or Paul will like, because David, Paul, and I will all kind of go in and workshop with them. And so, it's not that we shoot anyone down, but we're always like, well, like what if we took it this route or whatever. With Anna, we don't have to do that. Like she is like, that choice was so funny. And it was, and just how she took it, and like you can't see her at all like in the rock costume. Like she truly is a boy that has become rocks. Like
Yeah.
it's incredible. Like I mean, it's beautiful to watch something like
Yeah.
that.
As someone who has now seen a lot of Anna improv, her go-to character seems to be young boy. A lot of times, ghost of young boy. But like it is a tried and true character for her, and I can see why.
It's
But also,
amazing.
yeah, she can burp on command. Who knew?
I
Just
know. Yeah,
just
and then also like, to have such a drastic difference between what she was in the first. I mean, that was obviously our choice to kind of change the look, but then how she took it as well
Mhm.
was so different. And yeah, it's just again, it's like really beautiful to watch. It makes like, it almost makes editing harder, to be honest, because we're like Eve and I are looking at it, and I believe that one, you know, it was hard to get down. It was hard to trim down because there's just so much gold. So if there's a bonus episode, you'll see a lot more of her in the bonus.
we'll just assume that there is. There has to be. Because how could you? That was one of my favorite things from last year was the bonus episode, and VIP season 1 was my favorite thing from last year. So,
Oh,
uh,
yeah.
yeah, that was such a oh man, Anna was so great. Just like every choice, but also like you know Vic calling. It's one of those things. Sometimes I feel weird about posting about an episode because sometimes it's like an Anna episode where I'm like, Anna is the funniest human being on the planet. This is amazing. I'm going to talk about. I can't wait to like post about this. And
Yeah,
sometimes it's not that the guest isn't funny. It's just Vic is so violently funny
I
that
know.
I'm
Yeah,
like I feel weird posting and not being like, look at what the guest did. I want to be like, Vic just said I'm allergic to human skin. We have to talk about this. Like it's the
totally.
funniest thing I've ever heard. Like it's Vic's too good is the problem.
Vic is so good. And like, I think the more they kind of like, the more we all kind of like learn host Vic character, kind of like, and the more layered host Vic becomes, I think, yeah, just, I mean, not all of it is like, ha ha, laugh out loud funny. Like, I think we do lean into, as you said, some like sad moments, which, for me, like, that's the kind of humor that I'm into, really, is like, I kind of want there to be, I really want there to be kind of like ebbs and flows in the humor. And like, I think that like, that's really the magic of this show, is that every single episode is so heavily reliant on who the guest is and like what the dynamic is between Vic and that guest, that like, how could every episode have the same type of sense of humor? Like, it just, so, for me, that's really what makes this show magic. And it's also really fun to like talk to people and have people reach out and say like what their favorite episodes are, and like not one person has the same favorite episode. Like,
Right.
really,
Yeah.
it's so completely arbitrary, and
yeah, I remember like season 1, like people would post like, "What was your favorite episode?" And the comments would just be like someone every person had one of the episodes was their favorite. Like there was no episode where everyone was like universally like, "Not that one." At least one person, that episode was their favorite.
Yeah, which is, it's such a testament. And like, especially this season, since we are straying a little bit farther from like dropout regulars, it's really interesting to see like who resonates with who, like who are kind of more attached to the dropout regulars, who really like seeing new people. I think that like who likes it when people get a little sillier, who likes it when people get a little bit sadder. Like, I think it really is just dependent on the viewer, and that's kind of what I love about this show, is just the range.
Yeah, I think I've revealed myself in saying that by talking about the Chris Red episode, and that I love when host Vic is sad. I want them to be so sad all the time.
And you're in luck, because
it tickles me to no end.
They get pretty sad.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you said we're on episode 8. Episode 8.
Yes. We got Corin Wells, Bobby Moynihan, Paul Robolino, Echo Kellum, Alex Songsha, Brennan and Izzy, Nicole Byer, Lisa Gilroy left.
Oh, okay. That makes sense. Great. Yeah. So I haven't even finished editing, so we'll see like just how sad it gets. But it'll also be funny. I'm not going to make it all sad, I promise.
Yeah. No, I'm laughing at the sadness. It's an enjoyable, like, it's funny sad. It's not like I'm emotionally devastated.
But then like, some are sillier, and like, obviously with PFT's episode, we really wanted to lean into the musical element of it all, because he like, excels at that. Like, he was just busting out songs left and right, where I was like, how did you make this up on the spot? I don't really understand, but let's keep going with it. So that's the thing too. It's like some of the episodes will have, I think that's the only one where we like really leaned into the kind of musical element of it.
The spotlight shadow. Brilliant choice, by the way.
Thank you. Yeah, and we have such a great VFX team this season as well. And obviously, Eve, I cannot like even do an interview without talking about how obsessed I am with Eve as, both a person and an editor. Like, she's just so fucking good. So like every episode really does lean into kind of a different like part of like, everything kind of brings out a different thing about Vic. Like, everything, really leans into a different type of sense of humor. We have like the musical stuff with PFT. We also have a couple episodes coming out soon that are a little bit more kind of VFX heavy. And
I have at least one romantic episode. Echo Kellum is kissing or nearly kissing Vic in the trailer. So
when does that one come out? Is that one next week? Wait.
No, that's so many weeks from now. Corin Wells is next.
It is so hard for me to keep track of anything. Yeah, I'm curious to see what you think after you watch the next few episodes, because like we truly take all of the episodes in just like a completely different direction.
Yeah. Well, one of them's coming up is Bobby Moynihan, who I called way back in May of last year.
And I'm such a bad like liar that I was just like, I was like trying to have a poker face, and I'm just like super stoked.
No, you did. I did. Based on your reaction, I was not like they've already talked to Bobby. He's in. But oh man, like obviously he was just at SNL 50. He's just so funny, and I'm so excited for that episode.
He is funny.
Frozen Man, whatever he is.
Yeah, he is like absolutely incredible. Yeah, I'm not gonna say anything else because I feel like if I said another word, I would give at least one thing
Yeah,
away.
well, let's talk about an episode that has already aired then that was really production interesting and heavy. Zach Oyama, the Letterman. Like, how, well, first of all, how many letters did you have sealed, or was someone back there, like,
Yeah,
running to.
yeah, so that was another like soup type of situation where there was the bit of the letters, and then at one point we like called cut and we were like, okay, because I think I've mentioned before how we do it is like, you know, the Vic and the guest will kind of workshop for a little while, and I don't want to interrupt that process at all because it's really kind of them like getting to know their characters, and especially if it's someone that Vic hasn't improvised with before, like not very often. Like I really want them to kind of like, yeah, like kind of develop a character relationship. And so after X amount of minutes, I'll call cut and I'll say like, okay, you know, where is this episode going? And behind the scenes, David, Paul, and I are kind of like messaging with each other and talking to each other and saying, like, okay, where is this going? And like kind of pitching each other ideas and saying, like, oh, what if we did this? And what if we introduced this as a game and stuff like that? So we're kind of like, I guess all three of us are kind of acting as like, you know, on set, like creative producers, if you will. And so for that one, I think there was already a letter that was made that we ended up using as a prop. And so then at a certain point where when I kind of went in and I was like, okay, you know, like let's talk about where this is heading. I think it was even a surprise to them. I think Paul and I were whispering to each other actually, like, wouldn't it be fun if we like threw a letter from off screen? And that was like one of the most fun episodes that I was able to like. That one was really about like improvisation with the crew as well. Like me and Paul were really able to kind of like, oh my gosh, like do it from this side. And like, you know, we would like whisper to like a PA, like, come over here, like, you know, like throw it from over there, you know, whatever. So
Attach
that
it to a
one,
camera, run it in. Like,
yeah, exactly. So that one was like such a fun and like very, very manic episode to do because we were kind of all like, not only were Vic and, you know, Zach kind of like improvising on stage, but then Paul and I were kind of having like our own dialogue off, like, you know, we should do this. And then, you know, that was a really, really fun one. And then in the meantime, we had our props team making letters. And so they were just kind of like just making letters. And then I think that was actually another one that we ended up having to do a pickup for the next day, maybe, where we like a letter like hadn't quite because we had one as like a flying airplane, I think, as a paper airplane. And so it didn't like land quite where we needed it to. So then we did a pickup the next day for that one. But
that's
yeah,
very
that was a
fun.
very
Also,
fun one.
oh man, Zach opening the letter by like just slowly tearing, so funny every time. Just like there are points, like it's in, I mean, every episode, but there are points, specifically Zach, where like he makes a comedic choice that is so surprising.
I know.
And just, I mean, so many people have said like he's a comedy sniper. He like waits and he takes his moments, but like that tiny little tear to like start, and the absolute frustration of host Vic of like open it faster got me every time.
It was so funny. And then like, yeah, and then Vic, you know, they have such a good dynamic anyway. Like they improvise together all the time. And um like there's certain episodes where we really like I can just kind of stand back and just watch like the magic unfold. And you know, not to make this like like I feel like every single time I talk about VIP, I'm just like, Vic is a genius, but they truly are, I mean, like what they do 2 or 3 episodes a day, and like every single episode having a different dynamic with each guest is just, it's mind-blowing. Like, I'm not a performer, and I just sit back and I'm just in awe of it.
Yeah, it is. Like, you're preaching to the choir here. Vic is a genius, and we know it. That is almost the entire basis of this
No,
channel.
rename the channel just like the Vic fan club, and
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah. So good. Yeah. I got to see them do improv in New
Oh,
York. It was super fun. It was very fun. Like Vic did a backflip at our show,
what?
which
Oh, I'm so bummed I wasn't there.
it required several people. Like they rolled over the top of someone, and like other people grabbed and like did like a full backflip. But like, which I guess I shouldn't spoil, like, because anyway, Vic did a backflip. We'll say that. And then like,
Wow.
but at like the DC and Philly shows, and I think maybe in Boston as well, Vic like tore off into the crowd. There are pictures of Vic like spider climbing across the seats, like through the crowd, like just such a
Yeah.
strong commitment to bits, as we've talked about. But
Their
like,
level to commitment. And like, yeah,
yeah,
I mean, that's kind of what I'm also like, as I'm doing, more and more of these episodes, like that's really what I'm realizing makes a good episode as well, is when like, you know, Vic and the guest can really just commit. Like you just have to go there and you have to get on set and you just have to say, like, I am going to commit to this. I'm going to lean in, and, I'm not going to be myself for the next, however many hours. And it's beautiful to watch. As a non-performer, it's like beautiful to watch.
yeah. I mentioned, I think off camera, but I just talked to Kate Elliott really recently, set photographer for Dropout, and Kate was telling me like VIP is one of the worst things that she has to shoot because it's so hard, because Vic makes her laugh so hard that like she's like, I have to shoot in bursts because
Oh,
like
that's
I'm
so funny.
laughing. Yeah.
No, Kate does a great job. Kate's very stealth. I don't think I've ever noticed Kate laugh actually. So it's fun to hear that, because
Yeah.
she's super stealth on set.
Yes, I mean, she also told me that like she literally is like army crawling on the ground, like so that no
Yeah,
one notices her, so that she can get pictures.
she does a good job of that, because like, as I think, as you've seen from this season, and we'll kind of lean into it more in future episodes, but like we really, like, no one is safe on the crew.
Yeah,
Like there is a high possibility that if you are on walking around on the set, like you are going to be in the episode. We like, I make sure that anyone that doesn't want to be like, is like kind of hard no to be on camera, is elsewhere, because like there's a high
because
chance that you're gonna end up
because
on camera.
Jacob might get up and want a tour of the
Exactly. Yeah.
studio. Was there anyone else on? And like, did you have to clear the studio that day, or was that like, were you thankfully like able to just wander around with him?
We were able to wander around. Yeah, I mean, we have it set up like last season. We had everything was like a little bit more compressed. This season we had a whole other building for makeup and costuming and stuff. So when we're filming, like everything else is pretty empty on that one stage.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did. I think we did say like, okay, like people, just kind of like take a step back. And Vic, there was a line that Vic said, and right now it's escaping me, but it was one of the hardest what was the line? It was, oh, like when they look into the camera, into Cooper's camera, and says like, I'm doing this for you, or something like that. And that was like such a funny line to me, but that like truly is like, yeah, like if you're gonna be working for Dropout, like you're not safe, like you might
Yeah.
be on camera. And Vic, does such a great job of just kind of like using the whole space. And
Yes.
Jacob too, like that.
Yeah.
I loved that decision. That was so good.
It's so much fun. We are almost at time. Very quickly, at what point in the Lisa Gilroy's episode did you know it was the finale? Instantly, or did it
Yeah,
take a little bit of time? Instantly? Great.
it was pretty instant. You'll see when you watch it, without giving anything away. it was kind of the obvious.
A spiritual successor to Ogbert, I'm just assuming.
It was, yeah, oh my God. Again, the worst liar in the world, so I'm not gonna say another word.
I said spiritual successor. So just in the like the mania of it all, you need a big closing piece, and Lisa's gonna bring that.
Yeah, I mean, Lisa, I think I said this last season, like I think Lisa is one of the most talented individuals like I have seen anywhere. Like she is so funny. I thought the grandma episode, step grandma episode last season, like that was one of my favorites. And just watching Lisa perform and watching Vic and Lisa perform together is so special too, because like they have such a great dynamic. And they again perform together all the time. And yeah, I mean, I like Lisa was one of the people that when season 2 was announced, I was like, please, like, let's bring Lisa back. Like, I need to see her perform again for my own, like, personal, like, I just want my own personal show for the Lisa Gilroy show. But yeah, you'll when you're watching it, you'll kind of, you'll see why we picked it as the finale.
I can't wait. Tamar, this has been absolutely delightful. We'll have to chat again soon.
Yes,
so many more episodes coming. So much more to talk about. Obviously, everyone needs to go vote for the Queerties. And Emmy voters, your time is coming very soon as well.
Yeah. We'll see what happens. But yeah, thank you for asking me to do this. It's so fun to like talk about it.
Always. All right. As always, I don't know how to interview, so I'm just going to hit stop recording.
Perfect.